la compréhension mutuelle entre la République française et le Royaume-Uni durait toujours.
The love affair between the British royal family and Paris has been both long and reciprocal. You need only take a stroll in the French capital to uncover a series of landmarks dedicated to English monarchs. Take Avenue Victoria, named after Queen Victoria, who in 1855 made the first state visit to Paris in over 400 years. And in 1918, George V Avenue was renamed in honour of the British King for recognition of his role as monarch during World War I. Well, I'm joined by author Stephen Clarke. Stephen, you've written several books, notably one of them about King Edward VII. It's entitled Dirty Bertie, an English king made in France.
Yeah.
To get started talking about King Edward VII's life, this Opera Garnier area is a perfect place. I mean, he loved coming here.
Yeah, he loved everything around here. The new boulevards had just been built, and along them there were loads of cafes and theatres and cabarets, and he loved to come here to be seen and to show off and to chase after the actresses as well.
Edward VII was thought of by many as the most Parisian of English kings. He quickly earned himself the unofficial title of the Playboy Prince and was nicknamed Dirty Bertie because of his insatiable sex drive.
There's a statue of him here, and I mean, he always strikes me as a bit of an unlikely seducer, you know, not particularly good looking.
Definitely.
Used to smoke like 20 cigars a day, but, you know, money and status talked, so he could seduce any actress he wanted, you know.
We're here in the Hotel Edward VII, which was named in his honour. The hotel swiftly became his Parisian base while he was prince. From here, he could explore the city, soak in the views, not to mention visit his aristocratic friends. So, Stephen, in more recent times, people might have referred to Prince Harry as being kind of a party prince. It's fair to say that when we look at the life of King Edward VII, Prince Harry wasn't a patch. I mean, we're talking about becoming synonymous with Parisian nightlife, perhaps in the seediest sense, in the 19th century.
Yes, Prince Edward, when he was the Prince of Wales, came to Paris, and he did things that Harry would never imagine doing. He had his private room in a brothel. He would go to every single cabaret and theatre trying to pick up the star actress and succeeding. So, yeah, Prince Edward had a whole career before he became king as a Parisian playboy.
So is that where he got the name, or the nickname, I should say, Dirty Bertie?
Yeah, he was decidedly immoral, which was typical of a gentleman of his time. You know, in Paris, in the sort of mid to late 19th century, it was a sex tourism capital. So rich men like him came here to try and sleep with the famous prostitutes, the famous actresses, and he did it all. People at home started calling him Dirty Bertie because his real first name was Albert. And but I'm not sure they actually said it to his face, you know. But the difference I would say, though, is that later, when he became king, he put this love of France that he'd gained, like immorally, to good diplomatic use.
You spoke about affairs, mistresses, etc. I mean, it's fair to say he had a lot of fun when he was in Paris, but there are also consequences to that. How much do you think that impacted the reputation of the British royal family at the time?
Well, at the time in France, when he was a prince, the reputation was great. He was a star. They loved him more here than they did at home, because back in London, the whole sort of sex tourism scene was much, much more sordid. It was really poor prostitutes, you know. There was no really crossing over from one social class to the other. Whereas in Paris, rich people used to swan around in their dinner clothes, going up to Montmartre to sort of look at the poor people and stuff, and go to their cabarets. And so the reputation of the British royal family when he was prince was better here than it was at home.
In terms of the mistresses that Edward VII had, it was very much two-way. They were able to help one another.
Yeah, at the time when Edward used to go backstage to sort of pick up the actress, there would be a crowd of people there. So for her to be visited by a prince raised her status. Okay, but at the same time, for him to be able to pick up a really famous actress like Sarah Bernhardt raised his status as well. It made him more glamorous. So both of them became a kind of celebrity couple, semi-public. Everyone knew he was married. He had his princess at home. But in France, he would, Sarah Bernhardt would be a mistress, and it would benefit both of their careers, as it were. The difference, I would say, with Edward is that years later, he invited Sarah Bernhardt, who was like on the downward slope of her career, to London, and he helped her career. And she wasn't the only one. In a way, his affection for France sort of carried on through the way he helped his former mistresses with their later careers.
He was also very much credited for this entente cordiale.
Yeah. In 1904, Britain and France signed the agreement, the Entente Cordiale, which is still good today. Even after Brexit, it's something that unites us. And it was largely thanks to Edward VII and his love for France. Because in 1904, a lot of British politicians were pro-German. But because Edward VII had enjoyed himself so much in France, he didn't want that. So he personally played a role in forging the Entente Cordiale against some of his own politicians. He did not want France to be attacked by Britain and Germany. He wanted to defend France, and he succeeded. So, yeah, his partying had a serious side later on in his career.
Vive la différence, mais vive l'entente cordiale.
And no exploration of British monarchs in Paris would be complete without Queen Elizabeth II, who was very fond of France as well. In total, she made some 15 trips here, including 5 state visits. Her very first visit to the French capital was in 1957. She arrived on the Eurostar for her final state visit in 2014, where she met with France's former president, François Hollande, and visited both the Arc de Triomphe and the Élysée Palace. Well, Stephen, during her last official visit to Paris, the Queen ultimately visited the city's iconic flower market, situated here on the Ile de la Cité. At that point, it was renamed in her honour. It's fair to say she was really fond of flowers.
Yeah, she had 2 great passions in her private life, racehorses and flowers. She was a regular visitor to the Chelsea Flower Show. So to have a flower market named after her, she must have thought that was a nice touch.
So, Lionel, you're a florist here at the Paris Flower Market. You were here in 2014 when the Queen came to visit. Walk us through what the protocol is. What were you told to do?
It was crucial not to touch her, for example. It was also very critical not to change the language in which she addressed you. That was very important. But especially no physical contact.
So what was the atmosphere like? Was there a lot of excitement, ahead and, of course, during the Queen's visit?
Well, people were very worked up, very excited at the thought of meeting her. There was a feeling of great friendship. It brought up something very special, her visit.
I can imagine people were queuing up for a while to get in here on that day.
At 4 in the morning, there were families waiting outside the flower market to meet her, to be sure to be able to see her.
So tell us a little bit about how that day went for you meeting the Queen.
I had to get up very early in the morning to get the shop ready. I really wanted to make something very beautiful to show her just how happy we were to have her visit. I researched her color schemes, and we did up the whole shop in blue, pink, and white. That took quite a while. And after, we waited for her car to arrive. And then I saw this person getting out of the car and walking towards me, and I thought, that's the Queen of England.
So, Stephen, it's clear that the Queen spoke really good French, and she loved France.
Yeah, she loved France. She loved speaking French. When she made speeches here in a really strong English accent, and the French love it when an English person speaks French with a strong English accent.
Je me rappelle le plaisir que j'ai eu à découvrir ce beau pays pour la première fois et à cultiver à mon tour une grande affection pour le peuple français.
She actually came to this market in 1948 on her first ever visit to France when she was pregnant with Prince Charles. So coming back in 2014 was a big thing for her.
Now, Stephen, you've written a book, Elizabeth II, Queen of Laughs. You say a lot of people don't realise quite how funny she was. Give us an example of one of her finer comic moments.
Yeah, she wasn't exactly a stand-up, but she had a good sense of humour about the difference between herself, a little old lady, and her status as queen. So she used to say, for example, to explain these weird colours she always wore, she used to say that if I wore beige, no one would notice me, which is a bit, everyone would notice her for sure, but she just like to make fun of herself.
Do you think that humour was a way for the Queen of dealing with quite a heavy workload, some quite important duties to carry out?
Well, it was more, I think, she was conscious that she had to do the duties, but she was also conscious that lots of people were very nervous when they were there with her. So she used to make them feel at ease with little jokes. For example, before her own coronation, she was waiting to go on stage, as it were, in her heavy robes with the crown. She didn't have the crown. And she said to the Archbishop of Canterbury, "Can you give me a little push to get me started?" Because he was looking very nervous, and that put him at ease. And she used to do that every time she had some ceremony. She would make a little joke about herself, just to get everyone sort of feeling relaxed.
The death of Queen Elizabeth in 2022 saw her eldest son Charles ascend to the throne. A French speaker like his mother, Buckingham Palace has said King Charles III will also want to celebrate Britain's shared relationship with France.
Coming of the royal guests of France.